Panama, 1900–1950, Independence, the Panama Canal, and the Battle for Sovereignty. The first half of the 20th century was perhaps the most defining period in Panama's modern history. It witnessed the country's break from Colombia, the construction of the Panama Canal, and the establishment of unprecedented U.S. influence on Panamanian soil. While Panama achieved statehood in 1903, it would spend the next several decades in a complicated dance of dependence, resistance, and nation-building. Breaking away. Independence from Colombia, 1903. At the dawn of the 20th century, Panama was still a province of Colombia. For decades, the idea of building an interoceanic canal had captivated engineers, empires, and financiers. France had already failed disastrously in the 1880s with an aborted canal project led by Ferdinand de Lesseps. However, the United States saw an opportunity and, after failed negotiations with Colombia over rights to build a canal, decided to take a more interventionist approach. On November 3, 1903, with tacit support from the U.S. Navy, Panamanian nationalists declared independence. Within days, the newly created Republic of Panama signed the Haibunau-Varilla Treaty with the United States, granting the Americans control over a 10-mile-wide canal zone in perpetuity. This deal was signed without the presence of a single Panamanian representative, only by Philippe Bunau-Varilla, a Frenchman with financial stakes in the failed French canal project. Although independence was achieved, many Panamanians quickly realized that their newfound sovereignty was compromised by American hegemony. A titan of engineering, building the Panama Canal, 1904–1914. Between 1904 and 1914, the United States undertook one of the most ambitious construction projects in modern history, the Panama Canal. The project required cutting through tropical jungle and mountainous terrain, excavating the massive Culebra Cut, constructing the Gatun Locks, one of the most complex systems of its time, creating Gatun Lake, an artificial lake that remains one of the largest man-made lakes in the world. The human cost was enormous. Tens of thousands of laborers, largely Afro-Caribbean migrants from Jamaica, Barbados, and Trinidad, worked under grueling and dangerous conditions. Heat stroke, accidents, and disease, especially malaria and yellow fever, claimed many lives. However, with advancements in mosquito control led by U.S. Medical Officer William Gorgas, the project pushed forward. The canal officially opened in August 1914, drastically cutting global shipping routes and reinforcing the US's role as a global power. The Canal Zone, a nation within a nation. The completion of the canal did not mean the end of foreign control. Rather, it institutionalized it. The Panama Canal Zone, stretching across the country's width, was a de facto American colony, governed directly by the U.S. off-limits to most Panamanians economically self-contained, with American schools, housing, and police. This artificial divide created deep resentment among Panamanians, many of whom were forbidden from working in higher-level positions or entering the zone without permits. Racial segregation between white American officials and black Caribbean laborers also mirrored Jim Crow-era practices in the UE's economic and political impact on Panama. Economically, the canal did bring benefits. Panama became a crossroads of global commerce. Yet much of the wealth generated by the canal flowed back to the United States, while Panama received nominal annual payment. The U.S. also intervened militarily multiple times in Panama during the early 20th century, justifying their actions as necessary for stability. Politically, Panama was marked by chronic instability, with frequent changes of government and coups, weak civilian institutions dependent on U.S. support, a widening divide between a small political elite and the working class. Still, a nationalist movement began to take shape by the 1930s. Intellectuals, students, and labor leaders increasingly demanded revision of unfair treaties, more control over the canal, and greater investment in public infrastructure. World War II and strategic importance. During World War II, the Panama Canal became a military linchpin. The U.S. stationed thousands of troops in Panama and expanded its military presence through land leases for airfields and defensive outposts. In return, Panama received some infrastructure improvements and financial aid, but also saw further entrenchment of American influence. This militarization rekindled debates about sovereignty and stoked nationalist fervor. Panamanian leaders began to push more forcefully for treaty revisions, setting the stage for decades of negotiation over canal ownership and rights. Conclusion: sovereign but not free. By 1950, Panama was a nation that had achieved independence in name, but not in economic or political autonomy. The U.S. presence, particularly the Canal Zone, was both a symbol of Panama's global importance and a daily reminder of its incomplete sovereignty. The first half of the 20th century saw Panama transformed into a hub of international trade, but also into a country defined by struggle, between independence and dependence, between foreign domination and national pride. The seeds of protest, activism, and eventual reclamation of the canal were sown during these decades and would shape the country's destiny for generations.